Welcome to this Excel basic video tutorial. In this tutorial, I'll be showing you most of the basics that is required to get started with Microsoft Excel. The version of Microsoft Excel which I will be using is Microsoft 365. This is the latest version of Microsoft Excel available. If you are using Microsoft 2018 or 2016, the functionalities are very similar, so you're welcome to use that. So we'll get started by opening up Microsoft Excel. The following window will appear. Excel now would like me to make a choice. I'd like to know whether I would like to open up an Excel template or start a blank workbook. You can see that there are hundreds of templates to choose from. For the purpose of this tutorial, we will be using a blank workbook. So let's click on the blank workbook and open it up. The first thing we need to do is learn about the new layout for Excel 365. First of all, across the top, you will notice that there are tabs. There's the Home tab, the Insert tab, the Page Layout tab, the Formula tab, as you can see. Each of these tabs are really important. When you click on a certain tab, it will open up a ribbon. This is the ribbon for the Insert tab. This is the ribbon for the Page Layout tab. So each ribbon will have a group. This is the clipboard group, the font group, the alignment group, the number group, and so forth. And these are all on the home ribbon. These are important terms which you need to know. Tab, ribbon, groups. You'll notice that in the corner of most of the groups there is a small arrow which I like to call the launch button. The launch button basically gives you access to a list of more functionalities that are available. So other terms which you need to familiarize yourself with are the spreadsheet itself, and the spreadsheet is made up of columns which is going horizontal across, as well as your rows which is going vertically downwards. So you can see we have a column, a B column, a C column, as well as row number 1, row number 2, and row number 3, and so forth. And if I browse to the right, you will notice that there are more and more columns. And once it goes to Z, you'll notice it will go from A, B, A, C, and so forth. So there are lots and lots of columns in the spreadsheet. The same thing applies to the rows. I have row number 1, row number 2, row number 3, row number 4, and so forth. Okay, so spreadsheets are made up of columns and rows. The intersection between a column and a row is what we call a cell. So this is a cell, and every cell in Excel has a name. This particular cell is named C4. And you can imagine how I got that name. It is the intersection between the column and the row. Every cell has a name. This particular cell has a name called D3. In addition to the columns, rows, and cells, there is another part of the spreadsheet which you need to know about, and that is called range. Now, a range is a group of cells that are together. It could be this, it could be this, it could be this. It's basically just a group of cells that is next to each other and together. And ranges can also be named. Just like this cell is called D3, I can also name this range. The way you name a range is that you start in the upper left cell called D3 and you end in the lower right cell called F5. So the way you name it is you will say D3 through F5. And the way you will type it out, you will say D3 through F5. Sorry, 5. So that is how you will name the range of what you see over here. I'm going to tap escape to get out of that because I don't really want that to be in my spreadsheet. So that is some background information that you will really need to understand Excel properly. You'll notice that all of this is on sheet 1. Many sheets make up a workbook, I can also tap the plus sign to add additional sheets. You can double click on the word sheet if you would like to rename it. Each of these sheets added together is what makes a workbook. Now that we touched on the foundations, let's actually start on working on the spreadsheet. So to make it a bit easier for you to view, I'm going to click on the zoom button on the lower right hand corner to make it easier for you to view. Now I'm going to click on A1 and enter some data in this A1 cell. Let's say I'd like to use Excel to create an inventory of all the goods in my garage. So this could be anything such as bicycle, cars, tools, etc. So the first thing I like to do is to give it a bit of a title. So I'll name it Garage Inventory. You'll notice that in the cell itself it goes too far to the right. Don't worry about that. Just hit enter on the keyboard and I have successfully entered my first data into the Excel spreadsheet. So it looks like this words garage inventory are spilling over onto the next cell. But in actuality, that is not true. Both of these words are only in cell A1. Click on B1 and type anything. You will notice that the garage inventory is still in A1 and B1 will have different data in there. So no need to worry if your text is too wide to fit in a cell. But having said that, actually making your spreadsheet looks nice makes you work better. How could I fix this? So what I can do, I can stretch out any column or any row. What I can do, I can stretch out any column or any row by putting my mouse in between the two columns or the two rows. So this is column A and column B. I can put my mouse in between and just drag it to the right. You may have noticed after I typed in garage inventory and I pushed enter, my cell moved down. In Excel, every time you push enter, your cell moves one down. If you press tab, it goes to the right. If you want to move up the spreadsheet, you can hold shift and press enter, it will go up. And you can press shift and tab and it will go to the left. Enter moves down, shift enter moves up, tab moves to the right, and shift tab move to the left. Another way you can navigate through the spreadsheet is by using the arrows on your keyboard. You can just use the down arrow, up arrow, the right arrow, and the left arrow. And of course, you can also use your mouse and click on where you'd like to go. But I can tell you from experience, if you can use Excel by only using your keyboard, it's going to go a lot better for you. And it will be much easier for you. So I got my title in there. So now I'm going to click on A2 and type in the word items. Now I'll tap tab to move over to the right and I'll put in date found and I'll tap tab again. I'll put in quantity and I'll tap tab again and value. And this will store quite a bit of information for me about my garage inventory. I'll be inserting the first record in my spreadsheet. So the first record I will be inserting is tools. I can tap tab and I can say the date found was 1st December 2018. I'll tap tab again and the quantity I found is probably 3 tools and the value of the tools is probably $20. Okay, that's an example of data entry, how you can enter data into a spreadsheet. By clicking on a cell or somehow moving to the cell, typing, and either pushing enter or tab. As another example, I have entered additional data in the table. And at this point, let's say I notice a misspelled word and I would like to fix that. You'll notice that I misspelled cars. If I click on cell A4, as soon as I type, look what happens. Immediately it erases everything in the cell. The reason why this happens is once you click on a cell, anything you type in the cell, it replaces what's existing in the current cell. So there's a distinction I need to tell you about. Press escape, double click in the cell, and you can edit it. And you can edit it. It's a difference of being on a cell and in a cell. This may seem as a very small, insignificant thing, but Excel is all about details. And all these little details will really enhance your use of Excel. Please pay attention to all of these details. And I promise your use of Excel will be much more satisfying. So just give me a few minutes and I'll put some data into the spreadsheet which we can work with. I've finished added some data in the tables. Each of these rows contains a record. So what we need to do next is dress this up a little bit to make it look a bit better and more eye appealing. It just doesn't look quite right to our eye. So what are some things that we can do to make this table look nicer? First of all, my title on top, it's kind of off to the side and it's not in the center. It doesn't have anything that really makes it stand out. So I'm going to click up here on top on the home ribbon and I'm going to click on the group in the font on bold to give it a bold and let it stand out a bit. Notice that I can also highlight the cell to different colors and I can also change the text to different colors. In addition, I can also make it italics and underline it. Those are all good options to have and make the heading stand out. Another thing what I can do is I can click on the cell and drag. I'm still holding the mouse down until the end of the table. So the content of the spreadsheet ends at column D. I don't have anything beyond that. Now watch what I can do. On the home tab in the home ribbon, there's a button called merge and center. If I click on that, see what it did? It merged all of the cells together and centered the heading. This is now one big cell. So merge and center is very helpful to do what I just did. It basically breaks down the walls between these cells and make it one big cell and just centers it. That looks a lot better and looks more like a heading. Another thing what I can do is that the text in the cell that doesn't really fit quite bothers me. I can go up here on top of the cell like I showed you earlier and click and drag to make it fit. I would like to show you a shortcut. What you have to do is go up here to the top and go in between any columns and double click. And if you do that, look what happens. It will automatically perfectly size the columns that all of the text will fit. I can do that for every column. Let me show you another shortcut. If I click on column A, hold the mouse down and drag across, and I double click in between any cell, and look what happens. It perfectly forms out every cell within the spreadsheet. Every column that I selected was affected by that double click. It's perfectly sized to fit the content. Another shortcut for highlighting the entire spreadsheet is to click above row 1 and to the left of column A. You will notice that the entire spreadsheet will be highlighted. Any changes made while the entire spreadsheet is highlighted will affect every cell within the spreadsheet. For an example, if I click the bold button, all the data will be highlighted as bold. Let me just unbold everything and only bold the heading. Thank you. Hopefully all these small little tricks by either dragging and highlighting all these columns or selecting all the columns will help you format and organize your spreadsheet to make it more eye appealing. Because often when it looks good, it's easier to read and easier to work with. Okay, next step, I guess I do want to click on Gerard's inventory as a title and underline it to let it stand out a bit more. And I would like to make all of these columns names stand out a bit more, so I will make them bold. And I would also like to make it italics. So the way I've done it so far, as you may not have noticed, is I highlighted the entire row and I clicked on italicize and it affected the entire row. So at this point, I really hope that you are familiar with the different names of the layout. We know what to call the different things like the tabs, the ribbons, the groups, columns and rows, cells and also range, sheets and workbooks. And we know how to enter data, how to change the format and how to make it stand out. And we also know how to adjust the columns and adjust the entire spreadsheet. And notice that you can also change the rows as well. You can make them bigger or you can make them smaller. So in my opinion, all of this gives you a good foundation and the basics for using Microsoft Excel. I will provide more videos where I will show different types of functionalities and shortcuts which can be used on Microsoft Excel to make it easier to work with. I'll also provide some tips and some tricks on Microsoft Excel that will save you time and make it easier for you to work with. We will also get into formulas and functions, and that's basically where a lot of the power of Excel is. So please watch for that future videos. If you like this videos, please subscribe and give it a thumbs up. Please leave a comment in the comment section below. Thank you for your time, and I really hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you learned a lot.